And now that's one of the reasons why I think so many people coming up after us are having such a hard time, because that piece of paper, it doesn't carry the same weight as it carried. Because with the evolution of it being so easy for more people to go to school and more people to get degrees, they the requirements have changed. So where it's like, okay, cool. Oh, you got a degree? Cool. Everybody's got a degree now, but how much experience do you have? So you
Yep.
find yourself stuck because I spent all this time getting this education, but I don't have the experience. And people don't want to, especially if you're a working, student, adult student, you don't want to go back to square one. You don't want to go back to
Yep.
entry level to gain that experience. So it becomes very, very difficult. So now people are choosing to go for the experience first, which in a way, in this day and age, at least right now, this place in time kind of makes sense. Because of nine
Yeah.
out of 10, they're going to choose the person. It's like, well, he don't have the piece of paper, but they've been doing it for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I want to piggyback on 2 points. Now it's so funny you said that. So one of the things I thought was so interesting about college is one of the things they were able to attach on with the marketing of college was something you touched on. You didn't say it, but I'm going to say it: self-esteem. So, and I think the self-esteem part, how you value yourself, was probably the biggest piece that really, really pushed the college, the evolution of the price increase. Because like you said, people were like, I don't really know what I want to do, but I know I need that piece of paper, or else I ain't shit out here. I need that degree. And Alicia, kudos to you, because at that age, you were able to say, okay, I know I don't need that. And that's a tough thing when you're 18 going into the world. Now I'll say, and speak to Ian, being in the military, most of the time at that age, people would either cling to a degree, I need that degree, or the other level of self-esteem would be, I'm going to the armed services. You know what I'm saying? Most 18-year-olds, at least 30 years ago, 20 years ago, were like, I'm an entrepreneur. That meant nothing back then. That means you're a bum.
Absolutely.
You're a bum. That's how everybody's looking at you.
Because that was the age of brick and mortar businesses. You know what I mean?
You could say, unless you had a real foresight, you were like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm somebody. There, at that age, you're really like, well, who am I? And you, like you said, a lot of more brick and mortar businesses. You have corporate America. Well, am I going to work in corporate America, or am I going to definitively go into a trade? And unless you had someone else who was in a trade, who you were able to, you had a dad or an uncle, somebody you worked up under, you might say, well, I'm going to be a contractor. And you could go into that definitively because you had that. But if you're 18 and you don't know what you want to do, the self-esteem piece is so deep, because if you are trying to have some level of self-assurance about yourself, you're like, you know what? I'm going to need that degree. Guidance counselors also too. They're not like, well, they might ask you what you really want to do, but what you really want to do is about what you really want to do to get to college, not what you're going to do once you get in college and how you're going to use college. So I think that college has never been a bad thing, but some people got in, knew what they wanted to do, and did it well, and it worked. But others, that idea of it being tied to my sense of worth, that is the strongest thing to sell. I mean, that's how you sell anything. Clothes, food, anything. That's how you sell it. If you attach it to people's self-worth, it's amazing. So I wanted to just say that. And then outside of that, I think, again, like you said, people are saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to find experience. You know what I'm saying? And now we're in a world now where it's becoming very interesting. So you have being an entrepreneur obviously is much more dynamic now, because we have a whole new type of economy now. The internet, the way it is now, which we didn't have 30 years ago. So people can legitimately start real businesses, and you could be a YouTube influencer, TikTok influencer. You could, have your online business, and one of the points I wanted to make too is that now it's not just whether I work here or do nothing. Now people are more dynamic now. So everybody has multiple streams of income or multiple streams of things that they're doing and trying to do. So I think that's why I think one of the benefits for the younger people right now, the millennials and Generation Z, I guess it is now, that they come after them. I don't know. But the young people, the 20 somethings and unders, they're able to look at stuff now and say, you know what? Even if I go work somewhere, that ain't gonna be all I'm gonna do. Because I got this other thing I'm doing. I got this other side thing I'm doing, and that's gonna be big one day. So I think that that's a positive thing. The last thing I'll say about that point is that in and of itself, college, that's why college shouldn't be so expensive. Because college, you know, when you go into college, most of the time, the first year to 2 years, you're doing the prerequisites, right? So a lot of people are not sure what their major is going to be and things like that. But man, that money that you're borrowing, it's clocking. You're spending from day one.
There is.
You know what I mean? So
it's generating interest
100%,
daily, practically.
100%. You know, so I think that we have the benefit now where I think a lot of us at our age now are kind of like you said, like Gina said, you know, you're not looking at your son, you know, once you talk to your mom, you're not looking at him saying, well, you got to go. It's more like, okay, I'm open in understanding the other avenues. And I think that that will help. I don't want my kids to have student debt.
Man,
I just want to make I just want to make a 30-second point that I think you guys were going to lead to earlier, but we never got to the conclusion on. I heard a lot of people say, I went to college, I got a degree, but I would have done it differently. But for those who are unaware what some of that might mean, and you guys can color in the rest, that I would have gone to community college, got my 2-year associate's degree, and then transferred to that 4-year college, realizing that my 4-year bachelor's degree looks the same as somebody who paid 4 years of school at that same school. So I just wanted to just articulate that because it's important to make sure we communicate, not with the assumption that somebody already understands what we meant. So I want to make sure. I think that's where some of y'all might have been hinting on, but if there's something else, right? If there's something else, you know, coloring those lines. But I just wanted to say that before you went to the video.
No, you hit the nail on the head exactly with that. I think I would have done it a lot more economically if I could have, and perhaps maybe waited a few years to really hone in on what I wanted to do, because at the time when I started school, honestly, I feel like now, and I didn't really realize it, but I went to school for the wrong reasons at the time. I was going to school because that's what my parents wanted me to do. That's what I was always ingrained in my head looked good. You know, you don't want to embarrass your parents. There's a lot of cultural aspects to it. But I went to school because I felt like that was what I was supposed to do. And I looked at it as a formality because at the time I was interested in music. I was singing, I was writing songs, and that's all I cared about. And at the time I still thought I was going to have this, you know, blow up stardom, and school wasn't going to even matter. But I told myself at the time, well, that's what mom and dad want me to do. And of course, that's what looks good for them. You know, I can't be, you know, one of their children that didn't go to college because it doesn't look good, yada, yada, yada. So I went to school as a formality. And my whole mindset, honestly, if I'm being 100%, my whole mindset was fucked up. I wasn't even really, I didn't do well in undergrad. I was an average student in undergrad. And it wasn't because I'm not smart. Because in grad school, I got just under a 4.0. I got straight A's. The only reason I didn't get a 4.0 in grad school is because in one class I got an A minus. In all my other classes, I got straight A's
Oh my
in
God.
grad school. That's the only reason I missed the 4.0. I got 3.97 because my very first class I got an A minus.
Damn.
I could have done the same in college, but the reality was back then I didn't care. I just
Yeah.
wanted a diploma. I
Yeah,
didn't
correct.
study. I didn't care how I did in the class. As long as I passed,
Mhm.
that's all I cared about. Because my mindset, my focus was on a whole different career. And I think that if I had waited a few years, if I had waited till I would say 25 to start college, my whole mindset would have been different because by the time I turned 25, my thoughts and my reality about my music career was completely different. So I would have been a different type of student. And I probably wouldn't have gone to a school that was so expensive either. So I think that for all the listeners out there who are young or even who are middle aged and maybe considering going back to school, my advice would be really give some thought to what you want to do. Try to be specific, try to be directed, and try to be as economical as you can possibly be because you can still accomplish that without going into debt.
Right.
Well,
And
I think. Oh, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
no, I'm
Mhm.
sorry. And also from our era in particular, another thing that pushed us at that time was, especially in our community, was like shows like A Different World that kind of
Mhm.
made
Uh,
made college the
I
college
was just thinking
experience,
about that.
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
that made that look so attractive
Yeah,
in
Mhm.
addition to that. So,
they were
but
attractive.
but to the young folks listening or to the parents that have young folks on their way to college, look for the more economic route because some of the other things that we mentioned, we think we have a consumer mindset in this country in particular with brands and brand name things. And that also, as we see colleges are marketing themselves, the brand name on the college is a lot of
It
times
makes
what we're paying for more so than something else. So you have to
Bingo.
ask yourself if you want the education or you
Yeah.
want the Nike logo that looks good on that same shoe that was made at the same sweatshop as the one selling at Walmart, for
right.
10% of the cost. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
Mhm.
that let's think about that. If you want to get the education, look for the most financially prudent route to get that education as opposed to
Absolutely.
the brand that's on
Oh man.
label that's on that thing. I just wanted to say that